Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and this morning we have a pretty interesting video. I'm not going to put anybody particular on blast, but I have a customer here who's been kind of given the runaround by a local shop here a few times over the past couple of months that I've worked with him. So kind of putting everything in preference. Originally, he bought this vehicle new to him. It had a few little quirks, so I did a little bit of work on it, and then it developed another serious issue that I wasn't comfortable diagnosing, and I told him just to take it to a local shop to have it diagnosed, where after dealing with them 2 or 3 times going back because of the way they were, it took them a few days to do the diagnosis. When they did do it, it was obvious they actually didn't do anything. They were just trying to replace everything that it possibly could be. I'll talk about that here in a second. We'll look at his vehicle. I'm not going to ramble too long in this intro. Special thanks to all the channel members who support the channel on a monthly basis and bring videos like this possible to viewers like you. So if you're interested in becoming a channel member, supporting the channel, check out the link in the description down below. If you're on the desktop, there should be a little button next to the subscribe button. And also there's merch down below, but we'll go ahead and look at this vehicle. I'm Ernest. We're going to get this thing roadside rescued. Here we go. All right, so here we are with the vehicle in question. It is a Dodge little van here. I can't tell the difference between these ones. It's either a Journey or a Durango, one of the newer ones. I think it's a Journey Crew, but anyways, I'm not exactly sure. So basically, my customer comes to me. He buys the vehicle from somebody else, and it has a misfire code on cylinder number 6 here. So this is in the past, about a month ago. And so I do kind of a preliminary diagnosis. We replace spark plugs, and I switch the coils on cylinder number 4 and 6 here, and the misfire remains persistent on cylinder number 6. So I checked the compression. It was okay, not super great, but not terrible either. So at that point I thought, well, maybe it's an injector or something, but I wasn't comfortable diagnosing it anywhere past that. So I told my customer to take it to the local shop here to have it diagnosed. So he set up an appointment to have it diagnosed by this shop, and took it in. Well, 3 days later after his appointment, they're finally they're still not doing anything. So he calls them and they're like, oh, well, we're just getting it on the lift to look at, which is, code for they haven't even looked at it yet. So he's like, okay, well, just let me know what's wrong, and then we'll see what happens. So the shop calls him back really quickly after that. So maybe they did have it on the lift, maybe they didn't, but he said that they told him there was a few things wrong and that the head needed to be replaced completely. So the head itself, which was going to cost several $1,000s, and basically what the vehicle is worth. So he was a little skeptical at this point. They gave him the diagnosis sheet, and he brought it to me and asked me to double check everything. The concerning issue was that the shop said that the spark plugs were all bad and would need to be replaced. And not only that, but the cylinder had no compression, and there was also other misfires on this head as well. So it was an issue all around, which I know 2 of those things were incorrect because I had put new spark plugs in there. So I know the spark plugs were fine, which they said they looked at them and they were bad, which makes me think they may have never even pulled the spark plugs, because he didn't tell them that I looked at it first. So they may have not even looked at it at all. And I know it had okay compression. Again, it wasn't, it wasn't 140 PSI. I think it was like 125, but it should have been, okay. And so he brought it back to me, and I thought, well, let me just look at everything. And I pulled this intake back off again, and they had unplugged one of the coils here on cylinder number 4, so that it had a misfire on number 4 and 6, and was part of their claim that there was issues on multiple cylinders on this head, not just cylinder number 6. So that was a little sketchy, to say the least. And he asked me, I put it back in, and cylinder number 4 misfire went away. He asked me if it was okay to keep driving it on it like that. And I said, it may be an injector or something, but you can take it to somebody else. Ask them for your money back, because they did not do a good diagnosis. And take it to somebody else and see, if they can pinpoint the issue. He hasn't done that, but recently he started having an alternator issue where his alternator wasn't charging. You can kind of hear the alternator whine, but I know particularly from firsthand experience that quite a bit of the time there is wiring issues on these. So I kind of cleaned up some of the wiring in the connectors, and it didn't fix it, but it wasn't super intense either. So same deal, I said, you know what, I don't know how to differentiate between the computer and a bad alternator on these vehicles, and I don't want to guess on your vehicle. So I sent him to get a diagnosis at the same shop. Well, he took it to the same shop, and they told him that his computer was bad and he would need a new $1,400 computer. And so they said, well, while we're doing that, we will replace the alternator as well, and we can just do that head and kind of group the labor all together. And I was like, no, don't do that. So he said that they said they were confident it was the computer. So we found a computer online that was reprogrammed for his vehicle, specifically to his VIN number. And rather than pay the $1,400, we paid a couple $100 and put the computer in, and lo and behold, it didn't fix anything. So yeah, kind of the same experience with that shop. They gave him the runaround the first time a few times, and this time as well. Weren't very clear exactly as to why the issue was in the computer, but we're adamant that he needed to pay the $1,400 to get a new computer and have it programmed, as well as replace that alternator anyways as preventative maintenance, which doesn't make sense. So here's the old computer that was presumably perfectly fine. There's the new one that is unnecessary. It may be an alternator issue, it may be a wiring issue as well. So I'm gonna dig into it a little bit and see if I can figure it out. I don't anticipate I'll be able to. I've only ever figured out one wiring issue on one of these Dodges. Kind of been one of my nemesis. In fact, in a recent video, I was battling with that same thing until I realized the engine itself was actually seized up, and it wasn't a alternator issue like a different shop had diagnosed as well. So that's just kind of the runaround on this vehicle. I know this isn't a super action-packed fixing a car vehicle, but I think it's worth talking about and letting people know how shops are going to try and take advantage of you if they are not very trustworthy. So we'll hop back up in the truck and talk about that for a minute, and I'll see if I can get this computer returned. I don't think they will return it if it's been installed, so we will see if that other shop is willing to reimburse anything. Again, I'm not going to put anybody particular's name out there today, but we will see if we can get taken care of or not. I doubt it. It's probably just going to be an assumed cost by the customer based off of their misdiagnosis. So without further ado, we'll hop up in the truck and talk about how shops are going to try and take advantage of you if they're not trustworthy, and how to find a good trustworthy mechanic. So here we go. Okay, here we are. Here's the truck. Just a little messy, not too bad. If this is your first time on the channel, you can check out some other videos about the tool truck tour, what all I have back here. And consider subscribing and checking out some other popular videos that we've done. So, I'll put my phone here. I have a little list written down that I came up with. Oh, and that reminds me, I had also written this down, I forgot to talk about. When the customer got their vehicle back from this shop, their rear door stopped working as well. So that could be unrelated. Again, I don't have any conclusive evidence to say, hey, these people sabotaged his rear door as well. But now it's not working, and can't get it open. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure they were just waiting for him to figure that out and talk to them about it next time he took it back to them to get fixed. And maybe something's just, they unplugged a connector. Maybe they didn't do anything, but it is pretty weird that it happened immediately after he took his vehicle to their shop. So if the best way to find a trustworthy mechanic is find somebody who's been in the area for a long time. If you're new to the area, talk to them about who fixes their vehicle and you know, what kind of people they are. You can also go and talk to people face to face or call them and just kind of get a feel for them. Google reviews are pretty good as well. If a shop has, you know, 500 5-star reviews, then it's probably safe to assume that they're treating people okay. So yeah, but the best thing is just word of mouth. Usually you find the best mechanics through word of mouth. So you may talk to your local AutoZone or auto parts store and see, you know, they've been in the area for a while, who they deal with a lot and who they trust. and you know, they're not working together. You know, they're not going to make any money if the other person, you know, does a job for you. So they're just referencing out of you know, just trying to help you find the right person to fix your vehicle. So if you find a dishonest shop, what they're going to try and do is always upsell you on things you don't need. Particularly, like, they'll almost always try and sell you new spark plugs when they're doing a job, and kind of they'll kind of guilt trip you into doing services you don't need. They'll tell you, hey, we'll do your spark plugs while we're in there, and it'll be less labor. In reality, they're not going to discount you any labor. They'll say, you know, normally it would be $300, we'll do it for $250, when in reality they're probably going to charge you $250 regardless whether they're doing something else or not. They're just trying to add on extra stuff. They'll try and cover things as preventative maintenance. Like I mentioned, that alternator, well, they're like, well, it's probably the computer. Well, it is a computer, definitely, but we'll replace the alternator as well as preventative maintenance. And if something works, it works. You don't need to replace it before it's gone bad. So they'll try and add on things. If you go to like a quick lube shop, they'll always try and add on like air filters, which do need to be serviced every 6 months to a year. So you know, they may charge you a lot for it, so you may consider just grabbing one at the auto parts store for 15 bucks and putting it in yourself before you go there, and then see if they still try and sell it to you. They'll always offer you like transmission flushes, coolant flushes, brake fluid flushes. That's kind of their bread and butter. So just, it's good to be familiar with those fluids, what they're supposed to look like, and know you know, if they really are bad or not. Sometimes they'll just put a drop on a piece of paper and bring it to you, and they won't actually show it in your vehicle. Could be from somebody else's vehicle. So it's good to know before you go what kind of condition your fluids are in, or ask them to show you on your vehicle specifically and have an idea of what they're supposed to look like. You know, there's some things you shouldn't have done, like a complete transmission fluid flush and replace. Usually a drain and refill is the service that is recommended if your transmission has a good life. If it's super old, you may consider not doing that, since it works by fluid dynamics. The weight of the fluids turn things like clutch plates and torque converters. And so if you replace really worn down fluid that has a lot of metal particles in it, and it's really heavy, with brand new fluid, it can start slipping. I haven't seen any personal cases of that, but I know it can happen. So consider knowing exactly what's going to happen if, you know, with the services they offer you. But a drain and refill is recommended. You know, probably every 60 to 100,000 miles. You have to look it up for your particular vehicle. And then they're going to try and add on additives and stuff like that. I know a lot of times, I have an uncle who worked at a quick lube place, said they would never replace transmission fluid without putting additives in it, just to prevent that kind of slipping in the future. So sometimes they'll be like, hey, we'll put this additive in your oil, it'll do this. A lot of it's kind of snake oil. It's really not going to do much. So just research what kind of additives they're offering you, or you know, just stick with synthetic oil and a good filter, and don't worry about putting additives in your engine oil. But that's it. This is the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. Hopefully you haven't been taken advantage of by a shop. I know it happens, but hopefully you'll be more prepared in the future to not get ripped off, and just do some good research before you go. Again, this is one of those clear as day instances where they're trying to sell something that is probably not needed, since the compression was fine. I did a static and a running compression test, and they both looked okay on this vehicle. My guess is it's probably an injector stuck open or closed, or some sort of intermittent problem. It may be something in the valve train, a lift or something, but it doesn't have any weird noise, so most likely it doesn't need a head. And again, the fact that they said it had no compression and needed new spark plugs is a pretty good indication that they never actually pulled either of those out and looked at it. So I don't want this video to get too long. Check out our other more action-packed videos. Thanks again to the channel members who help support videos like this, make them possible. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.